Welcome to the Proof Point Podcast, where we decode digital success one click at a time. We share key takeaways fueled by data and insights that your team can implement today to drive growth. Now, let's get started.
This is Stacy Porter Bilger, your host for the Proof Point Podcast, where I feature B2B and D2C businesses and thought leaders sharing marketing, data tactics, and sales strategies, and leadership insights that will kickstart your growth in this rapidly changing digital space. This episode is brought to you by Proof Digital. Proof Digital is a strategic and creative performance marketing agency. We partner with companies to create data-fueled marketing sales funnels and overall growth strategies. Visit Proof Digital to learn more. Well, I'm really excited to have our guest today. It's bringing back some memories. I knew our guest back in high school. I unfortunately had to guard her, and she was always taking me to school every time. So our guest today is Vicki Hall. Vicki was an assistant coach for the Indiana Fever and now a wealth management advisor at C.H. Douglas & Gray, specializing in asset management and financial planning. Vicki holds multiple licenses, and her background includes a distinguished basketball career, and that's an understatement. She was named Naismith and Gatorade National Player of the Year in 1988 and played professionally in the WNBA, ABL, and overseas for over 16 years and coached in the NBA for years as well. Vicki, thanks for joining. I really appreciate it.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. How fun. Let's go. This is going to be fun.
Let's go. Okay, I'm going to start. I'm going to start with the box that I got from my mom a couple months ago. And this is kind of fun, right? Back in 88. I was a basketball player, like I mentioned, and I had to guard you, and we got killed every time we played rebuff. But this is a magazine that was in a box that I got from my mom, who clipped all my things. And right there on the front page is you on Who's Your Basketball. And this was the 87, 88 version. I am in this magazine. I'm on page 141. If anybody cares to think so, she's on front page, and I'm on 141. But this is fun. We're going to go down some memory lane and then talk about leadership, talk about women in sports, and just talk about some good things about how we can all help one another grow.
Absolutely. We have to in this day and age.
We do. And having these conversations, and I am going to focus a little bit on women's sports and women's basketball, just because we're taping Wednesday before the Final Four. And Vicki, you played for Texas, and they're in the Final Four, and they haven't been in the Final Four in a long time.
2003.
2003, and I think they won in 86, a couple years before you went there.
That's the only national championship so far
they've had. And they also had an undefeated season that year. But so it's kind of fun for you to see the full circle.
Yeah, I'm going to be going out there. I leave tomorrow, actually. So to meet with some clients and see some friends, and yeah.
I bet you still get excitement from that. What you saw, and we did too. We're Title IX babies. And what's your observation of the growth of women's sports in general, and especially women's basketball?
Well, first of all, this was the 50th anniversary for women's basketball. High school in
That's
Indiana.
Crazy. That's right.
And Jane Calhoun, who she played at Purdue, and we've known each other for years, and she's a part of the IHSAA. She actually put some together for us, and I didn't realize how really close and fortunate we were to have sports for us.
I know.
Because still they had it in basketball, but they didn't in soccer and all this, because I had to play on the boys team and they wouldn't give me a uniform. I mean, all kind of crazy, stupid things. But yeah, to meet the first team from 1976 and, that group, and then just to see that it really wasn't that far away from when we were, and how far they came from the beginning to where we were and then where it is now. It's really grown a lot, and what Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball, you can't ever, you can't put a number on it. I mean, it's crazy.
No. You can't. And I'm a Fever. I got my tickets, season holder. Have been on and off between kids and things for several years now. But the money that she is bringing in to the city. To be truthful, when I go to the game and I go to the bars, they love a Fever game because it's bringing in outside people to the city, not just your local traffic to these restaurants and hotels and those things. So her impact, and she's exciting to watch, and she's bringing attention to other players who are just as exciting
Yeah.
to watch. And so bringing that eye to all the players is fun for me to see. Although when we played, Vicki, there were a couple places that when we played sold out. Buff was one of them. Not a big gym. Rushville, Noblesville.
Oh yeah.
They had the same kind of feel, to be truthful, when we played. So it's kind of fun to see that it's kind of even elevated to a whole nother level, where people are enjoying sports. And when we, like you said, I played other sports and they weren't quite as visible. So softball was not quite as visible as basketball was. Golf, soccer. I'm not even sure if we even had a soccer team, and we were a big school.
Yeah, for sure, not a girls' soccer team.
Right, right.
It was the boys' soccer team. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I went to Texas, because they were the first university to have separate men's and women's athletic departments.
Really?
And Texas was number one in attendance. They averaged 10,000 fans a game. That's back in '89. And so,
right.
I was like, wow, this is a no-brainer. That's where I want to go. I mean, I decided between Texas and Tennessee, which, I loved Pat, and Iowa, because I love Vivian Stringer too. But I just chose Texas just because, they had such a following, and it was just so electric to be there. And so, being a coach for the Fever in the kind of the lean years,
right,
and barely having maybe 3,000 fans in the stands, to now I'm a scout for the Lynx, and it's sold out or close to. That's amazing. And I give credit to the Fever because during the lean years they had us practicing at crazy places and playing at different crazy places, but now with Caitlin Clark, I think they're bringing in the revenue where they're actually putting it back into it, and so that's good.
It is. It was unfortunate. It took us that long because you got to invest in things like in marketing. You have to invest in marketing, and it doesn't always come. Now it's kind of a little reverse in women's sports where they brought all the money in first, and then now they're investing.
Yeah.
But at least we're investing. So I think it's great, and I am a big fan. Mom of a soccer player, so it's just so fun to see women leaders get the deserving attention that they should have. Anyway,
absolutely.
When you were playing, is there any particular memorable games or seasons that stand out to you?
Well, and if you go to high school, it was always, we lost in the regional, who eventually was the state champion, because we didn't have 5 champions. There was just one.
That's right. That's right. And you were a small school, to be truthful.
Right.
Your school I don't know if you're for Beth, it's not as big.
I think like not even 100 people in our class.
Right.
And, we played Noblesville. It was the Courtney Cox and Chrissy Davis group. And they beat us 2 years in a row. And Warren Central before then was Linda Godby.
Yep. She played Auburn. Uh-huh.
Auburn. Yep. And so those games were always, sold out in the regionals and were electric. So that for high school, probably. For college was when we played, Tennessee, or when we went to the Elite Eight. Those were always fun. And then probably for USA basketball was when we won a world championship in 1990. That was pretty awesome.
That's an amazing experience. You've seen a lot of places. Basketball took you to a lot of places.
Oh yeah, over 30 countries from basketball alone that I've either lived in or visited, or I didn't get to see a whole lot. I saw the gym, but but it was fun to go experience that. Yeah, for sure.
Now, talk a little bit, because I was talking to you earlier about what it takes to be an elite athlete. I don't think everybody understands that. I mean, I was like I said, I was a good ball player, but I wasn't great. And so you were great and more than great, because you were the top player coming out of high school in 1988 in the country. So how do you get to that, being that elite?
You know, one is God-given talent. You have to have
Yes,
talent,
you do.
and
You
that
do.
doesn't, not everybody gets that. And then what do you do with the gift that you've gotten?
Yeah.
And, I worked tremendously hard. I was in the gym every day at 6 a.m. before school. I got the key to the gym at Verbuff. And I trained, take a shower, go to class. At lunchtime, we had a college schedule, so we could move our schedule around. So I had a block that I would have out, and I would go and play pickup at the Y, go back, take a shower, go back to class, and then have practice at night,
Right.
and then go home and study. Because I still, I came from a family that was there were educators and PhDs, and so I better get my studies on. So it was just, it was relentless, and it was just in pursuit of perfection. And
Yeah.
it kind of drove me. I mean, that's what drove me, was just to be as good as I could be.
That is a rare trait, to be truthful. I mean, not everybody has that kind of drive.
I would agree with that. Especially, after playing, it was kind of eye-opening for me when I went into coaching, because I kind of figured that everybody looked at it like that.
Right.
Why wouldn't you want to be the best you can be? Even
Right.
if you have a scholarship in college, let's get in the gym and work it out. Let's
That's right.
do it. And it's hard to find. Very
It
hard
is.
to find.
And like I said, I probably practice golf the most of all my sports, but I still play, and that's kind of nice to be able to. But I had my dad was a pretty big influence, and I know yours was as well, and we have a similar story with that. But I had a jump rope next to the back of the door, and if I didn't use it, my dad would know, and he would get and it would make him so mad that I didn't do, because he knew that was a way for me to get agility and whatever. But I would say, well, I'm good. He goes, well, or I do this or I do that. He goes, well, you're not everybody else. And so I still was not everybody else, but I still never elevated it to your level. Maybe I was too enjoying too many things or whatever, but it's a rare trait to focus on one particular skill set and try to drive it to be perfection. I remember guarding you. Your shot was perfect. So
Well, thanks. I spent a lot of time on it, and,
you
and I would
did.
argue the perfect thing, but yes, I spent tons of hours. I had a regiment that I had to make 300 jumpers a day, make them.
I
Uh,
I believe it.
yeah. And
Make
so,
them.
but that led to me to have a career of where, I shot about 63% for my career from the floor, from two, and 47 or 48 from three. I mean, but I put in the
Wow.
time.
It is. And it's like with anything, you have that 10,000 hour, that people use. It's all about reps. No matter what you're doing, it's all about reps.
Absolutely.
So that's a good lesson for me. And I'll get the jump rope out, and maybe I'll
But it's
work
the
on those
same.
reps.
It's carried over.
It is.
It's carried over to everything in life. It carried over to coaching. It's carried over to now the finance world for me.
Yeah.
Sports it's amazing. Like
Yes.
it helps you learn how to focus and really, be determined. And because whenever, you're going to fail. And
Yeah.
it's how it's always, it's rocky, it's not how hard you get
Yeah.
hit, but it's how hard you can get hit, and get back up.
Yes. That determination and resiliency, I guess, is another word. And if you even look at women who rise up in the corporate world or start a company, most of them played sports.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and part of that is because of that work ethic that you have to have, the determination, how to lose and get back up. When I was good we had good softball teams, but in basketball, boy, I had to get up a lot because Linda Godby was no longer there. A lot of other team members were there. I'm 5'9", and I might have been the tallest. And so not, we had some things, but anyway, those are really good points. And I think, how about coaching? How did these traits kind of, you were a player? I mean, and it's hard to go from giving up your shoes or your boots or whatever, your basketball shoes, because that was your life for
it was
a
that was
long
very
time.
Yeah, that was probably the second most difficult thing I've done in my life besides lose my father. Was when it was that last day to play, because playing just brought a whole different kind of joy and feeling than anything else. Coaching was good. It was, I loved the strategy of it. I loved the in game. It was really hard, though. I have to be honest, because I assumed everyone was kind of like me. I didn't really understand when you didn't want to go in the gym and work and try to be the best you could be. It was really hard for me to understand that. And, it took time and, it took time. And I don't know if I ever really still understand that, because there's so many people that had so much more God-given talent than me, even, that I was coaching like at the WNBA level. I was like, oh my God. I mean, if you just get in the gym with me for like a half hour a day, like we'll work on this and you'll be an all-star, and it's just hard to do.
It is. And it's got to come with, I mean, like it came within you, it's got to come in, their heart has to want it. You can't change that. You have the God-given talent, and some people can go far with that. But you really have to have a whole nother level of want and intention. So how do you motivate people who are, I mean, as a coach, or to when they're not there? That's a hard one.
It is, but it's the same for all us business people.
It is.
How do you motivate your employees, to get the jobs done and to do what's necessary, where, your boss feels comfortable delegating, what I mean? I mean, it's the same thing. And, I guess one of the things that I've learned, I wish that in some ways that I could have taken some of the courses I did in, corporate America, as a sports person, because they take a little different angle, and it makes you think a little differently. And so, it's just more about connection. And it's also, like Simon Sinek, I don't know.
Yeah.
Leaders eat last.
Yeah. Love Simon.
Sinek. Really just trying to understand the people you're with and what it is that's important to them. But it has to be genuine.
It does.
It has to be genuine.
It does. They have to have an interest to grow themselves. I mean, they have to have, wanting to improve. But they also have to have that where they'll take ownership of things. And it's the same. What are some of those courses that you think that you've taken recently that kind of sparked, some thoughts? Can you think of any?
I just go to a lot of different. I was actually Leslie Bailey. She's the owner of Maven Space.
Yeah. I know of her. I know of her. I don't know her, but I know of her.
She does a great job, and she's right here in Indianapolis. She did a great job on a couple of different seminars, just talking about, whether it be your elevator pitch or, how to figure out who to hire.
Yeah.
Just different things like that. There's so many people that have so many different
Yeah.
ideas and thoughts, and those from her, I've learned some things, and then just some other things like through BlackRock or financial.
Right. Right. I think back. I give this analogy to my team a lot. I was on a good softball team, and everybody on the team was different. I mean, they're all different personalities, but everybody understood their role, and you trusted that they would do that role, whether it was the pitcher or the I was a catcher, or they were the outfielder. You had trust that they would take care of it. They would do it, and so we were able to come to. I mean, I don't think it's hard to have that magic that I was able to experience. And it's fun for me now that I build teams and build the team to see where their strengths are so that they can play that role, because when that happens, it's just so fun. It's magic. And when those teams go to those levels, and those teams right now who are in the Final Four, they probably have that.
I actually was just also, yeah, absolutely, you're right. I was actually also there was a networking event at the Columbia Club, and the guy that was, he was one of the top people in Cummins
Okay.
in their team building. He did a seminar for us, and he just had some interesting things and how to build a team and how to build on success, and the different things that it took. I'm a student of life, and I like to just learn, wherever and whenever, and you never know when it's going to be applicable or not. So you may as well just sit down and listen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe it's also from our time and when we were, kids in high school. Your dad passed at that time. Mine did too. Really similar age. And I have a whole new view of life earlier than I think, and appreciate certain things. So I think that always learning, always being open to, people's challenges and growing is part of something that I think I learned from that era of my life too. So
Yeah. And you never know when your last day is going to be,
you
or
don't.
somebody around you. And so try to take advantage of, every opportunity you can. And it'll go a long way.
It will. And having conversations like this, I love, because it's just about building relationships and living today and learning today. What are any other reflections that you have from sports before we kind of jump into maybe helping folks with their numbers?
Um, you know, it taught me about, relationships are so important. It's more important than actually what you do or how you do it.
I love
And
that.
um, you know, it can be taken in a negative context or in a positive context. It's how you're going to take it. But it really is true. People are hired because of who they know, not necessarily what they know. And where that could be, that could be positive or negative. There's two ways to look at that. But it really shows that, and you don't want to just be in and have relationships because, oh my gosh, just I've got to do this to get a great job or be
Right.
good. But I mean, that's a great thing about sport is the court was the equalizer, and you didn't really have to, you stepped on the court and you did your thing. You had your teammates and you worked together and we worked as a team, but it was a great equalizer.
It was.
Where when you step out into corporate America, the equalizer is a lot less. There's
Okay.
there it's harder to make that distinction from talent, I think.
That's a good point. Is there downfalls or good or upsides to that from your perspective?
Um, well, I wish personally that I was better with the relationship part.
Oh,
of it, being a player.
yeah.
Because I was so used to kind of just being able to do what I could do
Right.
that I didn't realize the importance of it. And then now, as I've grown and now I'm on teams, whether it was I was coaching in basketball or now I'm on a team at CH Douglas, it's how delicate, fragile, but important relationships are.
Yeah. You're so right. I'm trying to be more intentional through this podcast or just going to events. I frankly am an introvert. You wouldn't know
Me
that.
too, actually.
And so, that does drain me, but I also gives me energy too. So I balance that. But I know that I can make a bigger impact the more relationships I have. So I think it is, but it's a little murky out there. You don't know, you don't know.
Like it's positive and negative. You got to figure it out and you just rolling the dice. And you know what? You just have to have faith that what's best and what's meant to be will come.
That's a good point.
If you have that outlook on life, if you have more of a positive outlook that you're bringing to your life, I think you're going to get more positive back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's jump in a little bit to kind of give some tips. By the way, you're speaking April 24th at the Central Indiana Women's Conference, and you're going to really kind of dive in to help at this particular conference, women really start thinking differently and elevate their game when it comes to money, which is sometimes we're a little behind the eight ball on that. And I think we need to up our game. So I'm excited about you helping a couple hundred women up their game when it comes to money. One, you were transferring to basketball. What are some things that kind of drove you to the finance world?
Well, when we lost my dad, all the funds went to my mom, who she completely depended on my dad for our finance. So she didn't really know what to do or how to do or whatever. And we went to a trusted advisor, and they just took us to town. And right then and there, I figured that, okay, I got this number and I'm going to figure this out. And so my mom did too, because she was like, well, if anyone's going to lose my money, I'm going to, not give it to somebody else and let them lose it.
Right.
And so we dove into finances. And by this time, I didn't do it in college as much. But when I went to Europe, I started to make a little money and do some different things. And so I dove into the finance world and started to understand, stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, options, different things like that. Options came later in my life.
Right.
But the importance of compounding and saving early. Mm-hmm. And, what different timelines mean in somebody's financial life and how important they are.
Yeah.
So that's really what spearheaded me to become very educated and knowledgeable in the financial world. Was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I know. When I sit at the table with somebody and they start to speak to me about finances, they're not speaking to a dumb blonde. Like, I know what's going on. And it's so funny because, as women, it's like when you take your car to the shop, they're going to try to take you to town because you're a woman. Or when you're dealing with a contractor, it's the same with money.
It is.
And it's unfortunate, but it's a real thing. So I just chuckle when people talk to me, like when I was talking about my house, for instance, and, refinancing or recasting, I was trying to figure out what I needed and wanted to do. And the guy, he's talking to me, down to me, like I'm some dummy. And I just started laughing. I said, do you know what my profession is? Then he went, "Oop."
Yep. No, I don't know. It was sports. Plus I was the fourth daughter. So I learned how to, although I don't do it anymore, but I knew how to change oil, all that stuff too. So.
Wow. That's awesome.
That was back then. Not
my
anymore.
Mom taught me how to change tires, so I can change my tire.
I did that too. But you won't find me doing that now. But anyway, but to your point, I mean, I actually have real estate. That's one of the things that I understand. I don't understand all the other things that you're talking about, but real estate was one that I did because it's a business. I can write things off. They, I can write off depreciation, all those types of things.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I got educated on that because I didn't want to trade time for money. And again, you're trading time for money in a lot of ways. But I've been guilty of having money set somewhere and not making interest. Well, that's basically losing money because there's something called inflation and you're not keeping up. So,
and that's, people don't understand that. And like what I was talking to you about, the power of compounding, like this is why the rate of return is so important when you're talking about money, because you're absolutely right. If you were to take $1 and bury it in your backyard for 200 years, that dollar after 200 years would be actually a -3 cents.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes, that is actually factual.
Okay.
And so that just shows you how inflation eats up your money. And so, and what's disappointing to me, and this is what also is really given me passion around the financial industry, is that, they took away pensions. Now everybody is 401ks. They kind of, you go in there and nobody knows what to pick. They all go in a target fund or whatever. Right. They have no idea what that is or what it means. And the government has given us the onus on our own retirement. And so it's important that we figure out what we're doing. And if you don't want to, which is fine, because a lot of people don't have time. They're like, you're crazy. I don't have any time. I've got kids. I've got this job. And that's fine. But if you don't, then at least go to a reputable person that will help you. Because it is that important.
It is. I mean, really, your health and your security for your family, those are kind of top two. And so you got to understand that and learn. Things are changing. Things are complicated. And right now, from my standpoint, look at the market, it's a little expensive on some things. I think, but maybe it's just maybe write it out like you should on some things. Or do you do real estate, or do you buy? I'm actually kind of interested in buying businesses, for example. That's something, local businesses, small businesses that have revenue. So those are all different ways you can invest. You can invest in businesses. You can invest in property. You can let it put in stock market's important. All the other things are also important.
Absolutely.
Diversification actually is important.
And I think the most important thing, whether it be anything that you just spoke about, real estate, businesses, the markets, you have to be knowledgeable.
You do.
You really do. Even, in any of those. Because you can buy a really bad property in a really bad area and lose money. Yes. So these are really important things, is that if you're going to do this, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
And why? From my perspective, and although I've been guilty of it, there's people who have time to understand that. So you bring in partners, whether it's your doctor or your physical therapist or whatever, who know how to do certain things, or your financial advisor. I think they're, like you said, we're all busy. You actually will probably make more money and save time by getting and partnering with people who actually understand it.
And time is actually money.
It is.
You think about that.
Time is money.
It really is. Time, it's more than money.
It is more than money.
Because you can't earn more time. When your time is up, your time is up.
And Vicki, that's such a good point. And I've been guilty of it. Heck, on some of those properties, I was painting them and, doing all those things of fixing them up. And I probably could have made a lot more money than losing that time to do some of that stuff. But no, time is, we only have one time.
That's right.
We only have one time. And these funds will make it a lot better for your experiences. So you can have experiences. So you can hang out with friends and over dinner, or you can go take a trip out west or whatever you want to do. But it builds a higher quality of life when you actually understand money.
Like, and one thing, because money does not make happiness. It doesn't bring happiness. It really doesn't. That's an inward thing that you'll have to figure out on your own. But it does make your life so much easier.
It does. It does. I think I don't have any studies in front of me, but I think there's a baseline number on those financial pieces. But it does. It makes your life easier. You can do things, whether pay your kids college or take a trip so that you'll never forget it, or not worry about food on the, just lots of things. It makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely.
And it also gives you. We talked about this a little from my standpoint. Why I love what you're doing, and I love educating, especially. I don't mean to be women, because we know that that's kind of an area that we need to work on, and as a society, influence. It gives influence. It builds. It gives also. I'm donating to a nonprofit. I get to do that because now that I have those things, and so you're able to help more too. So yeah. I think it's important for us to really step back and have the discipline like you had as a basketball player, but also as a discipline from individuals to think about money and have a mindset around it.
Well, one of the things, and I'll talk about this a little bit in the retreat for women, and I'll just touch on it because I know this isn't just a
right.
a women's forum. But the reason why it's so important that women know, and as husbands, you should want your wife to know, because women that are over 65 have a 55% chance of being a widow.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Think about that for a minute. So, women live longer than men by 7 years on average.
Yeah.
And so to keep them in the dark is not very good for you or your family or I don't think that's what you really want to do. And so that's why it's important. And then if you aren't married or have a different type of relationship, women make 82 cents on the dollar, and it might go down lower here pretty soon. We don't know, but
it might.
that's a true thing. And so this is why I think it's so important for women, but women tend to hand off this to men.
They do. And I have I'm always learning too, like you are. I mean, I own a business, but I'm still understanding how can I improve my profit margins? How can I, do these types of things? You're always learning, and you need to learn, and things change too in the marketplace. So I think, it's something that everybody needs to have a discipline on, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or also meeting with somebody like yourself, so they know what they're focusing on and what they need to be doing. What are they missing? What do they need to be doing? What are some new habits that they should have in place? And I think both of us have this. We talked about our dads passing away. I think you had somebody who unfortunately took advantage of your mom. My sister and her husband moved in with my mom to try to get it all together because she didn't know it either. Right. And it's a real issue. Things have changed, but I still think a lot of women still couldn't put their financial statement and know what it says.
And it's so important. It really is so important. But you'd be surprised too, even men. Like, I don't just say, because I meet with a lot of different people, and even if it's not your cup of tea, if real estate's your cup of tea, that's fine. But if you're working somewhere and you have a 401k or something like that, or figure out the difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth. Figure out, some of the things that you're invested in. And it is going to be smart to know the difference between stocks and bonds. And you'd be surprised how many people I meet with that don't know these things, that are just very basic, that whether you have an advisor or not, you need to know them, because it's your money and nobody cares more about your money than you.
That's right. And you should know them. And back to, I feel like I have a financial statement and I know what's on it. But I also know there are a lot of things that I don't know. I mean, like I said, I know real estate and I have a small business and I'm working on growing that small business, but I really don't know much about stocks. I really don't know much. I know what they are. I mean, I have them, um, but it would be good to understand them or work with somebody to say, okay, maybe I should do this instead of this, because you don't know what you don't know. And it can be complicated out there a little bit.
It is complicated. It's not easy. There is so much information in the financial world, truly. And, I don't think that the governing bodies help by making it simpler for us either, which is unfortunate.
Right.
But it's true, kind of like the IRS, your taxes, everyone's looking at this going, what in the world? I don't, you're trying to do your own and you're like,
nope, I have an accountant.
Well, there you go. So, but it's a similar thing,
It is.
So this is where it's really good and important to have good people around you.
It is people you can trust, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
And then you can have honest conversations and learn. I mean, and there's all things that come into new that I don't know. I mean, Bitcoin, FTEs.
Yeah.
No clue.
Personally. It's a cryptocurrency, highly speculative. It's highly speculative. That's something to invest in if you've got extra money that you don't mind losing, because it might quadruple. It might not. You might lose it all.
It's like going to Vegas.
Yeah, you don't really know. So and there's nothing to substantiate it at this point either, beside what we're going to do in our government. So
yep, we'll see where we go down that road. Yeah. I know you also worked with a lot of young athletes. What do you think about empowering the next generation of both athletes and then young people, getting them thinking?
Very important. I mean, as far as, I still do a lot of speaking events, and I do it for sports teams and different things, and then for finance as well. So I kind of go both ways. It's very important to empower. That was the reason why I coached, is because I really wanted to empower young women and to let them know that it's okay to lead. It's okay if you're a woman and you lead. It's okay that you have a voice. It's okay that you're strong in your convictions. It's okay.
Thank you.
Because we're taught that it's not. Yeah. And that's where the passion comes for me. And so that's where it came from, basketball, and kind of empowering them and letting them, take the reins and show them, this is what you do. This is how you do it. And look what can happen. And it could be a beautiful thing. It's the same with finances too. If you start to save at this age, imagine if you have your summer job from college and you save, $500 in the summer, and you invest that and you let that compound, and every summer you add to it, by the time you retire, you're going to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Which you're going to need to be to retire.
Which you will
by then,
for sure. Or or it won't be good. And it's also a balancing act too, of what you save and then being strategic of living today.
Well, this is the one of the biggest and most crucial things that people don't understand, because they always come to you like, how much do I need? How much do I need to retire? What am I going to need? Well, the biggest question you have to figure out is, how much do you spend? Marinate on that for a minute. That means that everybody's number is different. If I'm spending $200,000 a year, $1 million isn't going to be enough for me to retire at 60.
Not even close.
Right. But if I'm spending $50,000 or $60,000 a year, well, now we're talking. Now we're in the ballpark. So these things people don't understand.
Yeah. And where you spend your money. I mean, I don't eat out a lot because I prefer to eat in. I eat healthier too that way, but then I'll travel. I mean, so you just got to pick what you want to do. Unless, I mean, I'm not, a billionaire, not even close, or, a multimillionaire. And, I have goals to do that, Vicki, but I'm not there yet.
But you got to start somewhere, and then you got to, it's just like sport or anything else. You have to start somewhere, and every step is along the way, and you have to have a game plan. Like I would never walk into a game without a game plan.
And that's
I knew what I was going to do. I had a A, B, and C answer. So I always wanted to be prepared, and it's the same in life.
It is. And that's really the transition to what you've made from player, coach, financial leader. So that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, you have to have a game plan.
Yeah.
I have to have a game in life and in business. And it's also more rewarding if you do. I mean, if you don't have a playbook, you're going to go. And
you're shooting from the hip.
You are. And you're not going to win that game.
Well, you might, but then you're going to do it again, and you probably won't. And then you won't even have a recipe to figure out how to do it again if you do succeed.
That's right.
So.
Any other, I really appreciate you. Any other passing thoughts that you want to on this Proof Point podcast?
I guess it kind of goes back to what we said in the beginning. I think it's like your outlook, and just please try to have a positive outlook and be grateful. And, life throws you some lemons that really, I've had my share of lemons like everybody else, and know that everybody, regardless, everybody has stuff going on in their life that we don't know about. So have some kindness and some empathy and be grateful. Don't be looking at, what they have and comparing yourself. Be grateful for what you have.
I love that. Go Texas. And I mean, going into Final Four here, this might be after, we'll see this might be live after those games, but, and South Carolina and Connecticut and UCLA, right? Those are the four.
Yeah.
Great women's teams, great programs, great coaches.
Corey Close, I really have a lot of respect for her. She does a tremendous job with her programs. And
really,
we actually played against her back in the day when I was with Toledo, took them to the wire. And she's an amazing coach. And so a lot of fun. And I just, wish everybody luck.
Yep, we definitely do. Well, thanks, Vicki. We've been talking to Vicki Hall with C.H. Douglas and Gray Wealth Management, former NBA, WNBA star and coach. Vicki, thanks for joining the Proof Point podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Proof Point podcast. We'll see you again next time. And be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.